Hi friends and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hello. My name's George Agambar and I'm a UK music producer. In today's video we're going to be having a look at how we can achieve that modern pop whisper vocal sound. The kind of vocals that you'd hear in a Billie Eilish or Melanie Martinez or Troye Sivan track. So if you want vocals for a laid back, relaxed, even lo-fi or bedroom pop track, then make sure you stay tuned and hit the subscribe button and notification bell for new videos every Wednesday.
And things will never be the same when I hear your name since you kissed me in the rain.
I just wanted to do a quick disclaimer saying that this is how I would personally approach mixing vocals in this style. The people that I mentioned earlier, their vocals may not have been mixed in this way, and this technique may not work for every single vocalist, but I think that it should work for most. It's also really important to note that you can't just turn down a vocal and expect to be able to achieve a whisper tone. Whisper vocals are sung in a very certain way using a certain singing technique, and so you need to make sure that you get that right when you're recording the vocal. In this video, we're going to be having a look at the microphone placement when recording, de-essing the vocal, using some EQ and some compression, widening the vocals and adding some effects. The distance a microphone is from the singer when they're recording will make a huge difference in the tone we get. If the singer sings closer to a microphone, we'll get a fuller, richer sounding tone. And this is due to the proximity effect in cardioid microphones. Now, this can be really scientific, but essentially we find ourselves having a boost in the bass frequencies of the recording. The first thing I do with these types of vocals is try to get rid of any sibilants and tame any plosives. And normally this can be a bit tricky because the singer's sung so closely to the microphone. I do this first as I'd like to get rid of the problem before processing my vocal, rather than processing my vocal, exaggerating these problems, and then having to get rid of them. My de-esser is set in a fairly standard way for me. My threshold is 17.2 decibels. It isn't quite hitting all of the frequencies I want, but that's okay, because if I lower the threshold anymore, it starts to affect the overall vocal tone, and there are other ways that we can target the frequencies too. The frequency is set quite high, as the sibilance in my vocal sits at the very high end of the frequencies. So here's a vocal with and without the de-esser.
Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away. Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away.
You can definitely hear the difference, but we haven't completely solved the issue yet. Now, a de-esser alone may not be enough to solve all these problems. On this vocal, I decided to also use a dynamic EQ to tame the plosives that I couldn't tame using a de-esser, as the frequency range of the de-esser plugin wouldn't allow me to. In this vocal, you can see that the areas I've targeted are around the 5.4 kHz mark for that plosive T sound, and the 14.1 kHz mark for the sibilance that the de-esser couldn't get as it was out of the plugin's range. So let's hear what an effect that has.
Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away.
It's made quite a big difference, and it is only targeting the specific areas I want to. Even further than that, I actually cut up the vocal track and turned down parts of the track that are still just too present and jarring in the mix.
Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away.
So that's how I like to tackle any sibilants or plosives that I find in these types of vocals. It certainly is a disadvantage to us singing so close to the microphone, But at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world because it's manageable and we can fix these problems. Next, I like to add a bit of compression to even out the track just a little bit. But I'm always very cautious not to add too much. We don't want that perfectly smooth, perfectly even, shiny, normal pop vocal sound. On this track, I've actually decided to use the Platinum digital compressor, which isn't one of the typical vocal compressors. But I listened to the track through each of the different models, and this is the tone that I preferred. My threshold is set at -30 dBs, and I have a very low ratio of 1.2 to 1. So this compression isn't really going to be doing huge amounts, as I wanted to maintain some of the natural feel of the vocals. There's a fast attack time and slow release to give a softer, more chilled sound to the vocals, which I think suits the style that we're going for. Here's the vocal with and without compression.
Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away. Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away.
As I said, it's not doing a huge amount, it's just taming the very extremes of the track. Now, as a general rule of thumb, you should do subtractive EQ before compression and additive after. But on this vocal, I've done all of my EQ after compression. And the reason I did this was because I found it gave my vocals a warmer tone. And I think that it just goes to show that you can have all these guidelines and rules in production, but at the end of the day, you've got to do what's best for your mix. So on this vocal, I've used two types of EQ, a digital one and an analog emulation. I've used the digital EQ to add a low cut, which is fairly standard practice really. You can see that I've dipped the information between 1.5 and 4.5 kHz. This has really softened up the vocals and taken out any harshness, which gives us a better whisper sort of sound. Here's a before and after.
Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away. Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away.
As you can hear, the vocals sound a lot less harsh. I've then used an analog emulation EQ to add some airiness without making the vocals sound harsh. So I've boosted some high frequencies around 6.5 kHz. Here's the before and after.
Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away.
This has given the vocals that polished, shiny sound, but hasn't introduced any harshness that we worked to take out using the digital EQ. Now, widening vocals may seem a bit weird, and at first I was sceptical about doing this, but actually it makes the vocals sound so much bigger and thicker. It really helps us get that whisper tone, but also have a nice, warm, full sounding vocal at the same time. So I've used the stereo spreader to do this. This works by distributing bands of frequencies to the left and right channels in a balanced way. The intensity sliders on either side determine how spread out these frequencies are. The frequency sliders at the bottom decides the range of frequencies that get spread, and the order dial determines how many bands your selected range of frequencies get spread into. So here's the before and after.
Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away. Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place?
whilst it may take a while to get used to the plugin, I really do think it's worth it. The final thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of reverb to fill in the space in between the vocals. Now, normally in these types of vocals, the reverb is very subtle, so we're going to try and keep it really pared back. Here I'm just using the Space Designer reverb preset for a church sound, which I think sounds quite good for this type of vocal. I'm going to mix it fairly low down in the mix. However, at the very end of phrases where there's a lot of space, I'm going to increase the reverb to 1, add some interest, and 2, fill up that space. So to do this, I'm going to go into the automation mode and automate the reverb like so. Here's the before and after.
Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away. Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away.
I really like using the reverb this way, as the vocals still sound very natural, close up and unaffected, but the space has definitely been filled by increasing the level of reverb at the end of the phrase. So that's how I would go about achieving the modern whisper vocal tone. Obviously, there'll be different effects, different techniques, and different ways that you can get a similar sort of tone, and that's what I love so much about production. Let's have a listen to the before and after of the vocal to see the results of the processing.
Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away. Can't look at you without seeing her face. Is she lying there? Is she in my place? If I only knew that that's all it takes, all you ever needed to walk away.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful and interesting. Let me know what you thought in the comments below and if there are any other videos you'd like to see in the future. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell, and I will see you again soon.